Marvel Studios' Thunderbolts will take the world by storm.
There's some big right out there, and you're gonna help me stop it.
Us?
Why, you got someplace to be?
On May 2nd,
Avengers are gone. No one's coming to save the day.
their time
I think we could be the people that are coming.
has come.
Being a hero, there is no higher calling.
Let's do this.
Marvel Studios' Thunderbolts. Only in theaters May 2nd. Get tickets now. This film is not yet rated.
The last thing you want to hear when you need your auto insurance most is a robot with countless irrelevant menu options. Which is why with USAA Auto Insurance, you'll get great service that is easy and reliable, all at the touch of a button. Get a quote today. Restrictions apply.
Buckeye Talk is about to begin. Hey, 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 come on in.
Welcome back to Buckeye Talk. I'm Stephen Means, that's Stefan Krajisnik, and that's Andrew Gillis, and it's time to get competitive. Andrew, you excited? You got the competitive juices flowing? You ready to win?
Well, last year I kind of had no idea how intense this could get, and I was like, yeah, this will be fun. Let's do it. And then Steven started talking smack like immediately.
Yeah.
And Nathan started talking smack like immediately, and I was like, oh, okay, here we go.
You learned a valuable lesson. Stefan, you
You're
ready
going
to win?
down. You're going down, brother.
I like that.
Pains.
So here's how this is going to work today as Andrew takes a sip of his grape Celsius. First of all, how do you like the grape? You like the grape ones?
Dude, the grape is the best flavor. It's
Okay.
not even close. They're
Okay.
so good.
Okay. Celsius, holler at us. Anyway, here's how this works. We do this yearly where we draft a spring depth chart heading into the spring game. My role in this is to be a mediator and to criticize and to compliment when I feel like there's a good pick. But I'm just here to compliment. I'm a commentator. I'm just a guy talking in a microphone and making sure we stay on course. It's Team Stefan against Team Gillis. That's how we're doing this. And they have to pick based off of what we know to be Ohio State's base right now. I know we've teased at the idea of them being multiple, but right now what we know is quarterback, running back, 3 wide receiver, 5 offensive linemen, tight end on offense, 4-2-5 defense. We're doing offense today. Tomorrow we'll do the defensive one. Andrew, you are the vet between the two of you.
I am.
And so I am going to allow you to choose which day you want to go first. Now, with that being said,
You want to kick or receive?
do you want to kick or receive? But understand, if you kick today, Stefan gets back-to-back picks, and then we'll go as normal. Stefan, just your first 2 picks will be back-to-back, and then we'll go back and forth after that. But it's just a way to make it fair. But Andrew, you've been here longer. You get to decide whether you want to pick first on offense and give him the 2 straight picks, or pick first on defense and give him the first 2 picks.
Basically, I could get 1 and 4 or 2 and 3.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting. I'm going to kick. I'm going to let Stefan take number 1.
Okay. So Stefan
We're going to win the middle 8.
I was hoping you'd do that, so I'm fine by that.
Okay. Stefan, you get the first pick on offense. Andrew will get the first pick on defense.
Well, before we start, we have quarterback, running back, 3 receivers, tight end, the 5 offensive linemen.
Yeah.
In the past, we have done a...
Stop ruining the pod before we get there.
I was going to ask if we're doing that.
Stop ruining the pod before we get there.
Ruining the pod, I'm asking.
All right. I'm getting there. Be patient. Run the route. Don't worry about what the damn board is doing it. Run the route. Now, I am adding a wrinkle. There is going to be a wild card spot on both offense and defense, so we can do that. Okay? So you can still have that option to do so, but try your best to fill out your starting 22s first before you go with your wild card spots. But the wild card spot helps to make sure that, what you don't want is a situation where one guy takes 2 quarterbacks. and the other guy's left with it. But also, someone could take 2 quarterbacks with their wild card spot, so someone has to end up with the guy that Ryan Day did said was a little bit behind everybody. But we'll see. Stefan, with the first pick in the 2025 Buckeye Talk Ohio State Spring Game Draft, you are now on the clock.
Yeah, the pick is in. Jeremiah Smith. I'll take the best player in college football. I'll figure out everything else. I'll take the best player in college football.
Jeremiah Smith was the number 1 high school player in America 12 months ago. He is now the number 1 college football player in America. Pretty logical here. Andrew, essentially you kicking was saying, I'll sacrifice Jeremiah Smith.
That sounds meaner.
Say that again, Steven, just in case people, I don't know, sometimes service cuts out, you hit a pothole, you're like, crap, what did they do?
Okay.
Yeah, Andrew, you are sacrificing having Jeremiah Smith on your team.
Yeah, that's fine.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was saying. No one's You guys are weird, man. Okay, this was the logical first pick. I knew this was going to be the first pick. This is actually the second time we've done this draft. Actually, no, it's the third time we've done this draft where a wide receiver was the first pick off the board. I took Garrett Wilson in 2020, the first time we ever did this, Doug Nathan and I. They were like, are you crazy? I'm like, no. I know I love Garrett Wilson, but also he's the best player. Who ended up being right there, guys? The New York Jets seem pretty happy with their wide receiver play. It's the quarterback they can't figure out. And then Marvin Harrison Jr. in 2023, before Andrew showed up that summer. He went number 1 in that draft. Andrew, you now get back-to-back picks. What are you going to do with them?
Yeah, so this is why I did this. I am going to take, with the second pick, Austin Cereveld. I'm going to put him somewhere on my right side, and I don't know where yet. We're going to figure that out as the draft goes, but he's going to play either right guard or right tackle.
Okay. As a rule, you have to place him somewhere right now. It doesn't mean he has to stay there, depending on where the draft goes.
I'll
but for
put
the sake
him
of competitiveness, you have to put him somewhere right now.
I'll put him at tackle, and then if the draft goes in a certain way, I will kick him into guard.
And that's all good. You want to know why? Because they're literally doing that with him right now.
Yep, exactly.
That's fun. Stefan, actually, I want to follow up on that, Andrew. Would he have been your first pick off the board?
That's why I kicked. That's why I kicked, because I wasn't sure.
No. I'm not saying no. There's no world where you're taking him over JJ. I'm saying in this world where JJ's clearly the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah.
Is he the second guy off the board had we not watched practice over the weekend?
Probably. I think so. I think obviously that helped. Like, that certainly solidified it. But it wasn't as if we showed up to Saturday's practice and went, who the heck is this guy? Where is he coming from? We had been hearing for weeks and months, Austin Cereveld, Iron Buckeye. Coaches are praising him. We saw him in the early parts of the spring playing tackle. We had seen him kind of all over the place. So yeah, I think Saturday certainly solidified it. But yeah, this is something that certainly has been kind of in the works for a little bit.
Because I think there's a world where if we'd have done this draft, Stefan, in March before practice started, he's not going number 2. But there's a world where he goes like 6 and he's a steal.
Yeah. I don't even know if he would be, if we did this in March, I don't know if he would even be the second offensive lineman.
Right.
Because we didn't know then that, we knew he was versatile. We didn't know he was tackle versatile. We knew he was left guard, right guard versatile.
So when you're talking about raising your stock in a draft like that, I don't think anybody has risen higher than Austin.
He's had the best spring. He's had the best spring relative to where he started.
Easily the best spring, too. He went to the Senior Bowl. He was awesome. He went to the Combine. He was awesome. He went to Pro Day, and he was awesome. And Andrew fell in love. He fell so much in love that he traded down out of that number 1 pick away from the generational wide receiver to go, I want you. And it's not crazy at all. I think I take him second. That just shows you how far he's come. Okay, Andrew, you're up again. You get your back-to-back, and this is it. After this, we're just going to go back and forth.
Yep.
But just to make things fair, Andrew gets 2 straight picks here. Andrew, you got an offensive lineman. Or you're going to stay on the offensive line?
Yeah, we're going to take Ethan Nyanwa.
He's going to do the thing where he's going to allow Stefan to have all the skill positions and go, that's fine, but they're not going to be able to get the ball because you have no time. I respect it.
We're gonna load up a tackle. I think. Look, Nyanwa, like, I think you see the visions, right? Have you ever seen every summer, every spring, people talk about what's a tornado watch versus a tornado warning? And people will post this picture where it's a watch is like a bag of lettuce, bag of cheese, taco shells, meat, tomatoes, and it'll be like all the ingredients laid out.
Yeah.
And then a warning is a built taco. We're not at built taco yet, but we're on tornado watch for Ethan Nyanwa. Like, this guy is, you just watch him play and you see the athleticism. I asked him, like, point blank, I was like, hey, how do you feel losing 30 pounds? Do you feel like you've lost any strength? And of course he was going to say no. We'll see. I think that is going to take some time. I think when you do talk about, where he could, kind of grow, I think, kind of building on that frame and kind of learning how to play at that frame is going to be very important for him. But yeah, I mean, look, he's just a massive human being. I think Ohio State kind of knows he's going to be their left tackle. I think there is a reason why Ryan Day started Saraveld at left tackle, and then now all of a sudden he's like, yeah, Saraveld was at right tackle now, and now he's, moving in on the right side. Oh, he could play guard or tackle, but it feels like Nyanwa is just that guy who's going to be their left tackle. So yeah, I'm taking him. I think I think he has the potential and the makings of somebody that's going to be really good. Now you have to put it all together. You have to put that taco together, but I think we're getting there.
Stefan, would you have taken Ethan Nyanwa here?
I don't know if I would have. I get what Andrew's saying, about the ingredients all being there. It's coming along, I think, slower maybe than some of us expected.
Yeah.
And it almost feels like he's starting to solidify himself at left tackle, because I don't know how much of a competition there is at left tackle. Like, he's one of the only guys that's solely working at one position. And maybe he's solidifying himself. I like the signing a ton when they got him in the portal, and I think he's going to be a pretty good left tackle. I'm maybe starting to be a bit more reserved now, because it's more of a offseason project than I thought it was going to be.
I think this is a positional value pick more than it is about the up-end talent. And again, there's a long way to go until they play a football game, and everything we thought about this transfer portal edition could be true by the time we get to August 31st. But it is slow. It's the example you used, Andrew, of it's like a taco, but we have all the ingredients of a taco. Well, yeah, because like, what else are you going to make? It's a taco. Him only playing left tackle is essentially most food situations are just meat and dough and some type of cheese. It's just meat, dough, and cheese.
I know. It's just hilarious that I sent us on this topic of like what food is.
I mean, because that's all that
meal
matters. That's all that. I'm hungry. It's lunchtime as we're doing this, but it's like Austin Saraveld is meat, dough, and cheese, but we don't know what is that going to be a burger? Is it going to be a hot dog?
Is a Doritos Locos taco. That thing is put together ready to go.
You don't know that. You just have meat, dough, and cheese. It might be a taco. It might be a burrito. It might be a burger. It could be a hot dog.
It could be the whole enchilada.
It could be an enchilada. Even though y'all was going to be a taco. Like, we know that already, right? There's no intrigue. And we love tacos here. Okay, so this is not a thousand, but we know that already. He's going to be a taco. So when all the ingredients are the ingredients to make a taco. Now, how good is the taco going to be? Right? Is it going to be Taco Bell level taco? Or is it going to be premium, high grade? I went to Mexico City for Valentine's Day and got a taco. the greatest taco I could possibly have? I don't know the answer to that question yet, but I understand it because we're in a situation where, well, he's the taco. And I don't know about these other tacos, but I know this taco is at least going to be edible. So I'm going to get this taco. And it's fine. There's nothing wrong with the pick. And you respect it because of positional value more than it is talent. But I so far, I think Andrew's doing a great job here. He's locked in his tackles. And one of his tackles, he could kick in the guard depending on what he does next year. Stefan, you are up, though. You're going to stay skill? You're going to start moving on the interior? You're going to take a QB? What we doing here?
I'm going to go offensive line here. I'm going to take Luke Montgomery.
Is this a reaction?
No. I had him written down here as who I wanted with this pick.
Okay.
I don't think we're giving Luke Montgomery enough credit. I think this guy is an all Big Ten level player. I think he showed it at the end of last season.
Yeah.
And injury played a part, but I think we all got to the end of the playoff and said to ourselves, Luke Montgomery is this team's best left guard. And Cerevel's better served rotating with Tegra Shabola on the right side. And I would have taken Cerevel second as well because I like the idea of putting him at tackle potentially. I think he's, like we said, he's had an outstanding spring. But I think we're forgetting that toward the end of the playoff, we were telling ourselves, Luke Montgomery is this team's best left guard. Like, no questions asked. Like, we were saying he should just start there now and just stay there, as opposed to when the playoffs started and they were rotating a ton. Like I said, injuries played a part, but he was limited a decent amount in that Saturday practice. I think he's a guy that maybe they feel like doesn't need, a ton of work this spring, and that is what it is. So maybe we weren't talking about him a ton on Saturday because of that. But I think Luke Montgomery is this team's second best offensive lineman. And I'm fine taking him in here with this pick.
I think it's interesting that he and Austin are moving up that hierarchy. And I don't think either of you are saying it as a slight to Carson Hinsman, who's the most experienced guy on the offensive line. It's less about him and more about those two coming into their own in year 3. I like this pick. And I do like the fact that the first 3 offensive linemen off the board, we know they're going to be starters here. One of these guys, we don't know where yet, and we also don't care because we think he's going to be awesome regardless of which spot he plays. But I do think that Luke specifically, I think he flashed some things and some things finally clicked for him in that playoff run. And now if he is bringing that into the spring and continuing on this path here, this offensive line has a chance to be better than what they were last year. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how we feel about that once we get to August about, hey, do we think that this offensive line group might have a chance to have a higher ceiling than even the original starting offensive line last year had or not? But right now, I think we're seeing a lot of promise going into the spring game.
So he's going to play left guard, I'm assuming.
I'll just put him at guard right now. I'll figure it out.
That's fine.
No.
The team's right now, and so I'm trying to.
I made Andrew do it. I'm going to make
Andrew
you do
said
it.
he was putting Cerevel at guard. He didn't say.
He said
No,
right
I'm
tackle.
putting him at right tackle, but I could move him to guard.
Yeah. So
At some
I'm going to
What
make.
did you draft him at?
I drafted him at right tackle.
Okay, I'll draft Luke Montgomery at left guard.
Okay.
I just heard him say guard when he drafted Cerevel. I'm just making sure.
I'm being fair with the rules here. Yeah, I'm just, they're not locked in, but for the sake of where you're drafting them at versus where you put them when you actually get their team together, I just want to make that abundantly clear. So, okay, those are our first 4 picks. JJ is the only skill position got to come off the board. He's the clear number 1. I think if we'd have done both offense and defense together, he would have been the clear number 1 guy. I think if we'd have done all of college football together, he'd have been the clear number 1 overall guy. And that was drafted by Stefan. Andrew followed up with Austin Cerevel as his right tackle and Ethan Owenyawa at his left tackle, though Austin Cerevel is with an asterisk because depending on how this draft plays out, he is allowed to move him. And then Stefan takes Luke Montgomery as his left guard, but I guess, again, we'll see how things play out. Maybe he moves as well. We'll take our first break here, and we'll continue this Ohio State offensive spring draft here on Buckeye Talk.
There are people out there all across the country pushing boundaries to grow the game of golf. Like champion speed golfer Lauren Cupp, who plays faster than anyone else. And Will Lowry, whose work in the golf community inspires more kids to get into the game. As a champion partner of the Masters, Bank of America supports everyone determined to find out what's possible in golf and in life. What would you like the power to do? Bank of America. Bank of America N.A. member FDIC, copyright 2025, Bank of America Corporation, all rights reserved.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
And we're back here on Buckeye Talk. Stephen, me, Stefan, Krajisnik, and Andrew Gillis. It's draft time. We're spending the next 2 days drafting offenses and defenses headed into the spring game. Everybody's healthy here. That's the rules. That might not be the case in real life, but it's the case in this reality of Buckeye Talk. Everybody is 100% healthy heading into Saturday. Get the text 614-350-3315. I'm going to put these rosters out to our texters. This 2-week free trial, and you get to vote on who you think did a better job drafting. And you can yell at them because I'm going to be doing that. So far, I like what we've done so far. Jeremiah Smith and a bunch of offensive linemen. Andrew, you are back up with your third pick. So far, you've taken 2 offensive linemen. Where you going?
Yeah, Austin Sitterveld's not going to stay at tackle for long. We're going to take Philip Daniels, and Philip Daniels is going to go play right tackle, and we're going to kick Sitterveld into guard. Again, I like kind of the potential of Daniels. I think this is another positional value pick, but I like having Daniels and Sitterveld on that right side. I think this is probably going to be Ohio State's max potential right side of their offensive line. I think if you gave Ryan Day truth serum and you said, Ryan, what is the best unit for you guys? And you gave this same truth serum to Tyler Bowen and to everybody, and you said, what's going on? What do you think is the best outcome? I think they would tell you that Philip Daniels at right tackle is the best option, because if you play Daniels at tackle and you have Sitterveld at guard, then all of a sudden Daniels will have asserted himself to be one of your tackles, and then you are moving, I think we all agree, maybe your best offensive lineman, maybe your second best offensive lineman, third best. I don't know how you want to classify Austin Sitterveld at this point, but you move him to the interior, and I think that's a big boost to the interior. So I'm going to put Daniels at tackle and Sitterveld, and I'm going to lock down that right side of the offensive line.
I view Daniels the same way I view Ethan Owenyawa, except a step lower than that. And again, I don't hate anything about where Austin, you can put Austin Sitterveld an inline tight end and I'll believe in him. So this is not it's me. I thought I would have more confidence in the tackles, in the transfers coming out of the spring. And it feels like right now the only transfer I'm certain about in terms of what they are and their ceiling is Max Clare. Because even CJ Donaldson, I think physically he's changed so much that it's changed the way I view what his role is going to be, but that's for the better. Ethan and Phillip, again, positional value picks, I get them. I'm a little shocked that these guys are going ahead of some of these skill guys, but again, this is your guys' draft, not mine. I guess I'll ask you, Stefan, is this how you would have played it? Is Austin Sitterveld moving into right guard and Philip Daniels? If you were Andrew and you had an opportunity, you already had Austin Sitterveld, would you have kicked him in the right guard and put Philip Daniels at right tackle?
Yeah, I don't know if Daniels is like this big this high on my big board, but I see the strategy Andrew took, because he's left me kind of thin at tackle by having Sitterveld and then taking Daniels here. But I mean, it's fine.
Again, this is me evaluating the players.
I'll be honest, I'm not entirely sure if I think Daniels is the second best tackle on his team, though.
I don't either.
That's not even counting Sitterveld.
No, I don't either. But again, this is a badass drafting strategy, Andrew. I all respect to the strategy. I'm making that abundantly clear. This is now me evaluating the players. I agree with you. I don't think for certain that Philip Daniels is going to be a starter this year, the way I maybe thought so coming into the spring. Whether it's because Austin Sitterveld starts at right tackle, or there's a young guy who's coming in the year 2, who I thought flashed a little bit on Saturday, might just be coming into his own here. So, Stefan, you are back up. You've got an offensive lineman, and you've got a wide receiver. What's next pick?
I'm going receiver again. I'm taking Carnell Tate off the board. I'll take number 1 and number 2 at receiver. I'm fine with that.
So Stefan Krajisnik now has the only 2 wide receivers on this roster who have played at least 300 career snaps of college football. And they also are 2 of, I would say, the 10 best wide receivers in the country.
I think so far we've had 6 players drafted. Only 2 are going to be first-round picks in the NFL.
And they're both on your team.
They're both on my team.
It's a good case to make. I also think if we did a big board, Carnell Tate is like 3 or 4, and he goes 6. Andrew, are you okay with this? Are you okay with JJ and Carnell being on the opposite side of your sideline?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think for the way that this is mapping out, like I think this is one of those things where it's like, if you look at Mel Kiper's big board every year, you might have Travis Hunter ahead of Cam Ward, but there's no way Cam Ward is going behind Travis Hunter. There's no way. There's no way that you might have Ashton Genty ahead of Shedeur Sanders, but Shedeur Sanders might go ahead of Ashton Genty. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes positional value, I think, is more important. And I think as this draft goes on, I think there's going to be a moment where Stefan goes, "Oh, I might be in trouble here."
Yeah, but you just also used quarterbacks, and neither of you have taken a quarterback yet. And also, there's years where the number 1 pick isn't a quarterback. But I understand what you're saying here. I get it. I'm just concerned that the gap between we talked with Brian Hartline on Monday. The gap between the top 2 wide receivers, the top of the wide receiver room and the bottom of the wide receiver room, seems to be a lot deeper and wider than we're giving it credit in comparison to where it is in the offensive line room. But again, these are like Andrew loves the offensive line. So again, I don't hate the strategy. Neither strategy is bad. You are up again though, Andrew. This is pick number 7 overall and pick number 4 for you.
Yep, we'll take Brandon Ennis.
Okay.
It's going to be really good. We're going to get on the board with receiver. I feel good about him being one of our top receivers.
Well, he's going to be your top receiver.
He's going to be my top receiver now that you say it. But yeah, I think with the receiver position, I think this is kind of just a hilarious conversation because, like, in any other situation, Brandon Ennis plays a lot last year. Brandon Ennis is really friggin' good. He's not as good as Jeremiah Smith or Carnell Tate, and that's why he's going 3rd on this list. But I think there is a lot of hype there is a lot of hype about what Brandon Ennis can do in 2025. So yeah, cool with taking Brandon Ennis at this point.
I mean, he might be as good as Carnell Tate is. It's just Emeka Buka came back. That's all that happened there. I mean, nobody's as good as Jeremiah Smith, but I don't know. He might be a little closer to Carnell than we think. Pick number 8 and pick number 4 for you, Stefan.
Yeah, I'm taking quarterback. I'll take Julian Sayin here. I think, frankly, I think I should have taken him sooner. I played a risky game there. We are letting Saturday seep into our brains maybe a little too much of how impressive Lincoln looked. Julian Sayin, as we said I think it might have been the last podcast, maybe 2 pods ago, he's still like minus 200, minus 300 to be this team's starting quarterback. He's a 5-star who's on the CJ Stroud route and would have been here sooner had he not committed to Nick Saban. Like Julian Sayin is still going to be this team's starting quarterback, in my opinion. I'm not even sure if there's going to be much of a competition as we get deeper into fall camp. I think that there's a pretty sizable gap between the 2 quarterbacks, and I'm fine having the starter on my team. I like the idea of Julian Sayin throwing to Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate.
Well, good news to it. Why did he fall to 8?
I think because of Saturday. I think that we said it after on the pod, like Lincoln is better and he's making improvements that we maybe didn't predict and haven't given him enough credit for. I think there's still a reason that everyone is looking at Saturday saying, well, yeah, but Julian Sayin is still the team starting quarterback.
Andrew, was he your next pick?
Yeah, I was kind of playing a game of chicken there with Stefan. And Stefan was probably playing it with me too, where it's like, all right, is he going to take a quarterback at this? Is he going to take a quarterback now? When do I take the quarterback? Because, obviously there is that wild card position, but it's like, wild card, truthfully, I don't know how much it matters for a quarterback, but
does if you don't get one.
Yeah, I guess, but like, I was like, Julian is, I think, clearly my quarterback one off the board. But I don't think this was a situation where it's like, well, if you don't get this guy, then you're screwed. If you don't get Julian, then your team is ruined. It's over. And that, I think, is why I waited a little bit. So yeah, Julian probably would have been my next pick as I mapped this out after Innis. I wanted to get a receiver on the board just because Stefan already had 2, but I think as you look at this, I probably would have just went with Julian for my next pick.
You said if you don't get Julian, it's not like you're screwed. Would you have said that sentence if we had not watched practice on Saturday?
Probably. I think so.
Okay.
So just to make it easy, I'm going to take Keenholz now. So I'm just going to go back-to-back quarterback there. I think the gap to further my point, I think the gap, while I still think Sands going to be the starter, well, you still think Sands going to be the starter, well, Stefan still thinks Sands going to be the starter, well, I think we all three think Sands going to be pretty good. I think it is undeniable that Keenholz does look solid and he doesn't look like lost. I think a lot of people, for as much as we talk about Saturday kind of impacting things, for people saying, oh, Keenholz is, really good. I do kind of think like there are a lot of people out there who I'm sure are listening to this or who have thought about this quarterback competition and they think, oh, well, Keenholz was awful in that Cotton Bowl. And that's the only time they've seen him, right? That's the only time that they've thought about Lincoln Keenholz. And I think it's really true that Lincoln Keenholz, while he's certainly not as good as Julian Sand and certainly not as talented as Julian Sand, he has made progress and he has looked good. And there were moments where you went, okay, Lincoln, that was a nice throw. And like Ryan mentioned this today where, you kind of start to think, okay, is he just giving us lip service about this?
Do you believe him when he says it's neck and neck?
Not that it's neck and neck, but I do believe him I do believe him when he says Lincoln has a shot. I don't think
right. He does have a shot.
But I do think Lincoln does have a shot, which I don't know if we necessarily thought was realistic 2 months ago.
Do you believe him, Stefan, when he says that this thing is neck and neck?
Not particularly. I think when he says Lincoln has a shot, it means something. He would never say Julian Sand has a shot because it's like, yeah, no duh.
He'd also never get that question.
Right.
I believe that Lincoln Keenholz has done exactly what we said needed to happen this spring. He has made this so that whoever wins the job won it. They had to earn it. And in the long lens view of the importance of that and getting the best possible product from that room, that is what Lincoln Keenholz has done.
Stephen, when we were going through kind of the previewing the positions before the spring, you and I did the quarterback pod.
Yeah.
We were doing, 3 questions you have. The number one question I had was, can Lincoln Keenholz at least make this like a fake competition? Where all along the way we know it's going to be Julian, but in practice, Lincoln is pushing him to where Julian has to be his best every single day and on every single rep. And I think that has been accomplished.
Because remember when Will got knocked out of the Michigan State game? And Devin had to come in to close out the first half? Ohio State didn't just run the clock out. They put the ball in the air, and JJ had one of his highlights of the year.
2 of them.
Yeah, the same drive. That's nuts. Again, number 1 overall pick. But if they didn't have faith in Devin Brown, they would not have put the ball in the air. And a touchdown that, quite frankly, like ended the game. The game was over after that. Remember when Will got knocked out of the Michigan game and Devin had to come in? He came back after fighting off the entire strength and conditioning and medical staff, but There's a world where what if he doesn't come back into that game and Devin Brown's the starting quarterback against Michigan? He didn't stick out like a sore thumb in the plays that he was. I think he was only out there for like 1 or 2 plays. But again, that's what we're talking about here. What if something happens to Julian and Lincoln has to go in a game? You have to feel confident that they can still run this offense. So Saturday's overreaction day. I think last Saturday was overreaction day for the media and for the students who are in there. This Saturday's overreaction for the entire Ohio State ecosystem of whatever we see on Saturday, people are going to stamp it as gospel, whether it's Lincoln Keenholz continuing to have a good day the same way he did last Saturday, or Julian Sayin throwing bombs on people and looking like, oh my God, he's going to win the Heisman Trophy this year.
Not to make this a 45-minute conversation about the quarterbacks because we've already done that. I am curious, though, what if Lincoln Keenholz does come out on Saturday and is the better quarterback?
Then he's the better quarterback.
Then it's a better quarterback that day, but that will have at least been 2 out of 15 days, I think, where you're seeing the better quarterback. And it's like, okay, is this a thing that's been happening regularly? Maybe this is more of a conversation. I don't know. It's just, it would be interesting to me if that's the case.
2 out of 15 days, you were the better quarterback, and there's also a world where Julian was the better quarterback the other 13 days.
Well, that's the thing. We don't know about the other 13.
Right. So it's none of it is anything to me. Either way, if Julian comes out, he would have been awesome on Saturday. He's awesome this Saturday. It's the same thing because I could say, okay, well, what if Lincoln was awesome the other 13? It's all just pieces of a bigger puzzle, but because the general public gets to see so many few pieces, everything is taken as this is what the whole picture is, and that's not necessarily what it is. Which is why I was a little shocked that Julian fell, because I don't think any of us have changed our thoughts on who's going to be the starting quarterback this year. But Julian going and then Lincoln going 8-9 suggests a little bit of doubt about who the starting quarterback was going. I was fully expecting Julian to go in the top 4. And me being like, really? We're all the way there with it now. Okay. Nothing about what Lincoln did on Saturday meant anything to you. But that's not where the conversation went. Okay, Stefan, you're back up. This is pick 10. And the quarterbacks are off the board. At least 2 of the 3. We'll see if Taven ends up getting taken by a wild card spot or not. But where are you going, Stefan?
Yeah, I'm going to go tight end. I'm going to take Max Clare here. I think this gives me 3 of the 4 best receivers on this team. All Big Ten tight end. I think there's a pretty decent gap between the number 1 and the number 2 tight ends in this draft. So I like Max Clare a lot. I think he's going to be a great player. Like I said, all Big Ten selection. Probably their best. Like, what would you say earlier, Stephen? Their most solidified portal pickup?
Yeah. The most sure I'm about right now, because he was the first guy to lose his black stripe. And he just seems like he's progressing nicely.
If we did the big board, like we said, Carnell's obviously up there, but positional value, things like that. Max Clare is probably one of the more significant droppers on that list. Just I think because of the receiver position, because of the offensive line position, because of where things are at. I think Max Clare has a case to be like he was 10th. I think Max Clare has a pretty big case to be like top 5. And I'm not saying it's a lock in, but I do think he's got a case. Yeah. So
yeah, he's their best tight end. I think he's their best receiving threat at tight end. But his job description means the gap between him and Will Kazmarek might not be as wide, depending on what. But that's why Stefan said it the way he said it. I have 3 of the 4 best receivers on this team because it's about what he does as a pass catcher. But that's not why he's here. He's here to develop the elsewhere while also he can do stuff in the passing game. Andrew, who's pick 11?
I will also say on the Max Clare thing, I'm pretty confident in his development because Ohio State had a receiver who turned into someone who can do it all at tight end. I think Max Clare will be able to do that.
Yeah, that's a good point. And he had the first target of the Rose Bowl, which is hilarious. Andrew, who's pick 11?
This has been a really tough one for me because I didn't think Stefan was going to go tight end. I thought, frankly, he was going to go Kazmarek later in the draft just because his tackle situation is not going to be very good. You know what? I'm just going to load it up. I'm going to take Carson Hinsman. And I'm going to play him at center for now, and we'll see. But I think center is probably going to be where he sticks. Carson Hinsman, I think is maybe one of the more underrated players on this starting 11 that we're probably going to talk about, because like I think Austin Sehraveld has probably deserved a lot of the praise that he's gotten. Austin Sehraveld has deserved a lot of the recognition that he's gotten. I don't think it's unfair to say Austin Sehraveld's going to be their best lineman. I don't think it's unfair to say somebody else is going to be their second best lineman. But like Carson Hinsman started as a, what would that be, redshirt freshman as a second-year player in 2023. Didn't really play a lot until he absolutely had to. And we talk about Donovan Jackson being awesome down that stretch. Carson Hinsman, when he had to go to center, first off, when he was at left guard, he was really good. But when he had to go to center, like they also played some really good interior players. Like Notre Dame had Howard Cross, and he's a really good defensive tackle. And Oregon had Derek Harmon, and Tennessee had those big bodies up the middle. And I thought Hinsman played really well. So I'm cool with Hinsman and having 4 offensive linemen as Stefan has 1.
I can't wait to see how the Texans grade this.
This is going to be fascinating.
Yeah, because it's one guy has the 3 reasons why this offense might be elite, and then one guy has the reasons
why those guys might be alive at the end of the season.
Yeah, it's like elite versus alive. And so I am interested. 614-350.
Elite versus alive. I like that.
Yeah, which matters more? You want to be elite or you want to be alive? It's got to be both. Stefan, pick 12 before we take our last break.
Yeah, this is probably my first like reactionary pick. I'm taking Josh Padilla here because I need a center. And if he would have taken Padilla to be one of his guard spots or moved Hinsman to guard and had Padilla at center, I would have been toast at center. So.
I was taking Josh Padilla at left guard if he didn't right there. I was going to take Padilla and put him at left guard and just be done.
I'm okay with it. I mean, I talked about it in the offseason of I think Josh Padilla is coming along, and if they think Hinsman is better served at one of the guard spots, I'd be pretty confident in Padilla being this team's starting center.
Stefan was a pick away from having a 7-on-7 team.
And I still might have had a chance because my 7-on-7 team would be pretty big.
He's just been running a bunch of bubble screens the whole game.
Listen, just throw it up to JJ. We'll figure it out.
Let's see what happens.
What did Devin Brown do when he had to step in? He just threw it up to JJ. I will say, as good as this offensive line was last year, what were we saying after the Michigan game? Why'd you keep running it? Just throw it up to JJ.
That's a fair point. All right, so we're 12 picks in. We'll take our last break and wrap up our offensive drive here on Buckeye Talk.
I think you're on mute.
Workday starting to sound the same?
I think you're on mute.
Find something that sounds better for your career on LinkedIn. With LinkedIn Job Collections, you can browse curated collections by relevant industries and benefits, like flex PTO or hybrid workplaces, so you can find the right job for you. Get started at linkedin.com/jobs. Finding where you fit. LinkedIn knows how.
Lowe's knows member-only doorbuster deals make SpringFest savings even better. Right now, rewards members can get 3 19.3-ounce Bonnie Plants vegetables and herbs for just $10. Plus, save $50 on a Charbroil Performance Series 4-burner grill, now $149. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 4/7, excludes Alaska and Hawaii. Selection varies by location, subject to change. While supplies last. Program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms.
614-350-3315. 2-week free trial, $3.99 after that if you want to yell at these guys for their dumb picks, but also congratulate them on their good picks, but also news analysis. We do a lot. I'm telling you, it's a great time over there. It's worth it. 2 weeks free trial. That'll get you through the spring game and through the portal opening back up to see who else Ohio State may lose to some attrition, but also who they might be adding over this spring transfer portal window. 614-350-3315. But for now, we're drafting guys. And Andrew, you are back up. This is pick number 13 overall. So far, your team is Lincoln Keenholz, Brandon Ennis, Ethan Owenyawa, Carson Hinsman, Austin Sehraveld, and Phillip Daniels.
We're going to go James Peoples. We're going to run the ball. I think we've set that up with our offensive line to where we have that ability. So it's like, you know what? If we got a good offensive line, we can lean into this. We can run the ball a little bit. Now, I think the receivers on this team are good enough to where when we fill this out, I think we're going to be okay. But like, I mean, I think James Peoples is in line for a really, really good year, and I think as you map this out, he's their best running back. And if Stefan is going to have the best receivers, I think I need to have the best running attack, and I think I do that here.
For my wild card, can I take Ryan Day or Brian Hartline?
No.
Or sorry, can I take Tyler Bowen so he has to have Brian Hartline as his OC?
No, you cannot do that. But I don't hate the idea. Let me think on it. Go ahead, Stefan, with your next pick. Stone.
I'll take Tegra Shabola with my next pick. Sure up the inside for me.
Now I want to talk some more. Why did Josh Padilla go above a guy who is a full-time starter here?
Because Tegra can't play center for me. If he had taken Padilla, I wouldn't have had an option. It was literally a positional choice.
Right. Why is he? I guess what I'm asking overall here, because that's the structural answer for why he went above. Why is he so low overall for both of you guys? That he is pick number 14. As if we're being real about this, returning day one starters for Ohio State from 2024 are Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, and Tegra Shabola. And one of those guys was the obvious number one overall pick. The second of those guys went lower because of how draft plans go. But as part of that draft plan, Andrew, you did not take the third guy on this team who is a returning starter on offense. Why is he dropping?
Why is Tegra Shabola dropping? I mean, look, I only picked really, I think, like one guy over him. Like, I picked Saravelda. Well, technically, maybe Daniels, I guess, because I had Daniels.
No, you did. You picked both because
I think
Daniels is working multiple spots too, and there's a world where you could
I think
that right tackle and move Tegra Shabola to right guard.
I mean, you said that you were going to take Padilla over Shabola, even if it meant not. Like you would have moved Hinsman.
Yeah, that was more
Padilla, who has never
that was also position.
Right, and that you were going to take a guy who has literally never played a meaningful snap of football at either guard spot over a guy who just spent all last year as a starting right guard for a national championship team.
I think Tegra's play obviously wasn't perfect last year. I think there were definitely some flaws in the game. Maybe he's. I was thinking this the other day after we finished recording the pod from the Student Appreciation Day, and the way we talked about Saraveld and the way we talk about Luke Montgomery. Like, maybe we're not giving Tegra enough credit that he can be better in 2025 too. Like, why is Luke Montgomery going to take the next step, and Saraveld's going to take the next step, and Carson Hinsman's going to take a step, and Padilla's going to take a step, but Tegra's just a done deal? Like, I don't know. I think we're not being fair to Tegra about how good he can be. He just got a ton of experience playing for a national championship team. Like you said, Steven, I think there's a chance that he could just be a good right guard. Like, maybe he's this team's starting right guard because he's the best right guard on the roster.
And that's why I'm
asking the right tackle.
That's why I'm asking the question. It feels like he's getting a little, there's a new shiny toy thing happening to him here, where it didn't always look great last year as a guy who was a first-time, full-time starter and physically still looks like there's something there, right? If we just lined all these offensive linemen up and you just took them strictly off eye test, if you brought an alien down from space and told them, hey, this is what an offensive lineman looks like, you just describe what offensive line play should look like, and then you presented all these guys, I think the aliens take Tegra first over all these guys off of just strictly eye test. And yet here we are. There are 3 guys who might be interior starters that we've taken over him already. Another guy who, I don't know if Josh Padilla is going to be a starter this year. He might just be the backup center. And he also went before this guy. And I am wondering, are we Lincoln Keenholzing Tegra Shabola, where we're allowing last year old news to not allow us the opportunity to say, hey, he might grow from that and be a better player than he was last year? Are we out on Tegra Shabola?
I think that's exactly what's happening.
I think that's. I mean, let me ask you a question, Steven. How much have you heard Tyler Bowen or Ryan Day or Brian Hartline talk about Tegra Shabola?
Not much, but also
You keep putting him on first team right guard.
Yeah, like to be fair, it's a two. That's always a double-edged sword with us in the media. Like, hey, well, how much are they talking about? Well, how much are we asking about him, right? And we're asking about Austin. Brian Hartline answered questions about Austin Saravelt, not because he brought Austin Saravelt up on his own. Somebody asked him, and he went, "Austin is awesome." We're asking about these other guys, and so there is an element of that. Of sure, if we just went, "Hey, who are the offensive linemen who have impressed?" I'm sure Ryan Day would say Tegra Shabola because he has said they feel pretty sure about their interior. It feels like we are throwing Tegra away for the new shiny thing. And right now, I have no reason to believe Tegra is not going to be a starter this year. But I'm only bringing it up because it's interesting to see that play out in this draft here. We all feel this way. We're all doing it. And this is us playing that out of, we are so enamored by what Austin Saravelt is doing. We are so enamored by what Luke Montgomery is doing that and Philip Daniels is the transfer, so we just think transfer start, that it's kind of left Tegra Shabola as the odd man out, when in all reality, I don't know if that's 100% true. I think there's a lot of depth on the interior, and both of you guys actually have pretty solid interiors so far. That's all I'm really saying in that situation. Andrew, you are up with pick 15.
Mylan Graham. I think there's a couple options for this fourth receiver spot, but Mylan Graham is one of those guys that, you start to look at and say, in any other situation, I think Steven said this in one of our videos today after we left the Woody, or after we finished our interviews at the Woody, where he was like, he is on a normal progression. He is just not in a normal receiver room. Mylan Graham, I think, is going to be one of those guys that, is just a really good receiver whenever you call on him. It's just in this offense, you might not get to call him a lot, but I do think he is really good. And I think, especially with me needing a second receiver, I'm good with taking Mylan, and we'll throw it up to him and we'll see what he's got.
Speaking of guys not being talked about enough, Stefan, you have an opportunity to do something here. Because Ryan Day said something that I thought was quite interesting about a player and what they're doing with him. And that's all I'm going to say because I don't want to give it away. But you have a chance to do something very, very interesting at one of your position groups right now.
Giving him hints, giving him tips.
I do. I do have positional needs as well, though.
It's true. Once the player is off the board, I will say what it was to one of you. So,
yeah, I'm going to take Ian Moore here. I'll put him at right tackle.
Okay.
I alluded to this earlier. If Austin Saravelt is not a starting tackle, Owen was on the left side, and for whatever reason, Saravelt's not starting at right tackle, I'm not 100% sure Philip Daniels is next up. I like what I've seen from Ian Moore.
I don't think there should have been 11 picks between those two. I think the people who went before Ian Moore probably should have. On the offensive line, Ethan Owenyawa, Carson Hinsman, Austin Saravelt, Tegra Shabola, Josh Padilla, and Luke Montgomery. But I do not think there should have been 11 people between Philip Daniels and Ian Moore. Because when you start talking about guys who might rotate, if Austin Saravelt is not a tackle, I think that right tackle spot might see some rotation.
I agree.
So my idea is still on the board because, Stefan, after this pick, I'm not going to say what position and group it is, and I'm not going to say who it is, but I will say that my idea is still on the board for Stefan to do. Andrew, you have an opportunity to prevent him from doing such idea. Let's see if you do it with pick number 17.
I'm going to take Quincy Porter.
Okay.
I'm going to load out my receivers and kind of prevent him from taking Quincy Porter. Bryson Rodgers.
The idea.
Bryson Rodgers, I don't think is a bad option to have, but I think while Stefan has the number 1 and number 2 receivers on Ohio State's team, I have 3, 4, 5. And it just so happens that we live in a world where I think Innis, Graham, and Porter, I think in terms of talent, are just really freaking good. So I'm cool with taking them. I think we heard it today as we're doing this podcast from Ryan Day, where he was like, if Quincy Porter keeps us up, he has the potential to play a lot. Again, a lot in this offense with these receivers might not be, what you might consider a lot in a lot of other programs, but I feel like I have Ohio State 3 receivers.
I think Quincy Porter is 6 right now. I think you're giving Bryson Rodgers enough credit, but opinions are opinions. So I will share what my idea was now because Quincy's off the board. Actually, yeah, I have to because the 2 extra receivers are off the board. Brian Day said JJ's playing in the slot some.
Mm-hmm.
And they did that with Marv in 2023 as well. So my idea would have been Quincy is an X receiver. He is Jeremiah Smith's backup X receiver. I would have put Quincy at X and put JJ in the slot. And I would only have been able to do that because Brian Day said JJ was doing slot stuff because they're trying to expand his route tree. But also, Brian Hartline has said in the past that last year the only people who were working at multiple spots at receiver were Emeka and Carnell. So you could have also put Carnell in the slot and put Mylan Graham at Z. But can't do it now because Mylan Graham and Quincy Porter are gone, and you are up with pick number 18.
I'll take C.J. Donaldson at running back here.
This was the
I think he's been another winner of the spring. He's slimmed down, and he is not.
Yeah,
we talked about this on a video we did. He is not the running back from West Virginia that Ohio State signed. He is a much more versatile running back than we maybe gave him, than we thought when he came in. And I think this has gone from James Peoples having a pretty big workload and C.J. Donaldson being situational to, they might just divide up the workload like they did with Quinshon and Travion last year.
This is the most running back draft thing I have ever seen in my life. C.J. Donaldson going to 18. When I think if we did a list of who's Ohio State's best players, he might be in the top 10. But he's a running back. So mad respect to it. Andrew, pick number 19.
This is the probably one of the bigger game theory picks that we're going to make. I'm going to take my wild card, and we are going to put in the Bison role Carter Lowe. And we're going to have Carter Lowe come off as an offensive lineman that kind of plays that role that we've seen in the past, where you have, an extra lineman.
320 pounds.
Yeah. And what's your point?
It's your team. You do what you want. They have never put someone of Carter Lowe's size in that Bison role.
Well, we're doing it now.
I don't know if I've ever seen a tackle in the Bison role. Is this even eligible?
Well, they had Luke Montgomery. When they thought Montgomery was going to play it in 23, they had him playing that Bison role. They've
I'm
used
going to tell
it
you right now, Luke Montgomery moved into guard in the middle of that year. So,
well, we're going to take Carter Lowe. We're going to put him in the Bison role. I think I did that for one reason, or for two reasons. Number one, I think my offensive line is pretty big as it is.
Oh, you did it so that Stefan could not have
I would like to load up, and then I look at Stefan's tackle situation, and he'd better draft some good edge rushers, or else he's in trouble.
There was no football read. You did that simply for competitive reasons.
Yeah, look, man, listen, we could load it up, but we could big package this thing, and we could run it up.
Listen, there's nothing wrong with what you did. I'm only calling you out because you're trying to I did it for the no, you did it.
So I said game theory.
Yeah. No, there was no game.
You got caught in a lie, but it was still a good choice.
There were different reasons that I did it.
You were drafting him to play him at the Bison. You're literally not going to do that.
No.
You're drafting him so I don't get Carter Lowe.
Ohio State has used the Bison for maybe 30 plays over the last 4 years. And you didn't do that for
Again, I want you to draft Ryan Hartline. Take Ryan Day as your offensive coordinator. Let's see what we do here. Welcome to Michigan game.
Yeah. It's okay. Just own it. You wanted to stick it to Stefan. And that's perfectly fine. Nothing is wrong with that. Stefan picked 20.
Yeah, he alluded to my tackle situation, so I'm going to take Will Kazmarek as my wild card.
As your
out on the edge a little bit.
Okay.
And now he's slim at tight end.
I almost didn't do the wild card for offense for this exact reason. Oh no, you making some edge rushers, man. All right, Andrew, pick 21.
I'm gonna take Jelani Thurman. I was thinking Stefan was
to
probably
run the
gonna.
ball, and he didn't take the best run blocking tight end in the room.
Yeah, then we put Carter Lowe out there. It's fine. Yeah,
True freshman who's still learning how to play football.
Yeah, it's fine. Jelani Thurman, I think, is probably we needed a passing threat. I think like we needed a receiving tight end. I think especially with Stefan getting Smith, Tate, and Claire. I think I do like my receivers with Ennis, Graham, and Porter, but they're just not as good. So I did need kind of a little bit of an oomph there. I think this is probably the way that the tight end situation should have mapped out. The guy who has the better offensive line could take the receiver, and the guy who needed a little bit of help could end up with Kazmarek. And I think that's actually kind of the way that I figured this was going to play out.
Well, I got both of them, the receiver and the block.
Yeah. Pick number 22, Stefan.
I'll take Deontay Armstrong. I'll put him at right tackle. I'll put Ian Moore at left tackle.
Okay.
I mean, listen, I won't sugarcoat it. Like, I don't think I got the best offensive lineman, or at least the best tackle, I should say. But I do think we're not giving enough credit to the Armstrong brothers when we talk about the offensive line room. I mean, they're both progressing pretty well. Deontay was a 4-star tackle. He was a top 400 prospect, number 33 tackle in his class. Like, he's potential there. I trust Tyler Bowen to develop the guys.
Yeah. He's had a good spring. They've had good springs. Andrew, you have a left guard left.
Gabe Van Sickle.
Okay. Who's been playing right guard. But look up.
He's
going to play left guard today.
He's going to play left guard now.
I mean, you could put Stereveld at left guard if you wanted.
I could put Stereveld at left guard. Yeah, so if we want to do that, I could put Stereveld at left guard and then Van Sickle at right guard. Look, man, I'm good with my offensive line. It really doesn't matter.
Donovan Jackson and Austin Stereveld and put us in this world where we think anyone can just play anywhere.
I'm laughing. To be fair, Stereveld has played left guard in the past. So, like, if we want to be like sticklers about it and say Van Sickle's only playing right guard, then I'm fine with Stereveld playing left guard.
I'm not laughing at the pick. I'm laughing because that's where we're at. Wow, we're just like, oh, we can just put Austin there and figure it out later. All right, Buckeye, he'll figure it out. All right, Stefan, who's your slot receiver?
Yeah, I'll take Bryson Rogers. I'd said on a pod probably last month or so.
Yeah.
I think Bryson Rogers, like, you kind of lose him in this mix of, Quincy Porter comes in and Miley Graham's coming along, and obviously Jeremiah Carnell and Brandon Ennis. Like, when they needed a starter last year, Bryson Rogers came in and started. And he can play the slot for you as well. Like, I think you were right what you were saying earlier about where Quincy Porter is in his pecking order. He's exciting. He's that 5-star, but he might still be behind Bryson Rogers. So another guy who maybe we're not giving enough credit to just because he's not, the shiny new toy as we call Oregon.
Bryson Rogers has started more games as an Ohio State football player than Brandon Ennis has. And that's not saying because Brandon Ennis is going to be a starting slot receiver, but like the Iowa game, they put him out. Carnell Tate was gone, and they put Bryson Rogers out there as a starting Z receiver. And you can make all the faces you want, Andrew, but Brian Hartline knows what he's doing. Okay, that's our offense. Andrew has Lincoln Keenhouse at quarterback, James Peoples at running back, Quincy Porter as his X, Mylan Graham as his Z, Brandon Ennis at the slot, Jelani Thurman as his tight end. His offensive line from left to right is Ethan Owenyawa, Austin Stereveld, Carson Hinsman, Gabe Van Sickle, and Phillip Daniels. And then he took Carter Lowe, the true freshman, as his wild card, as one of 2 true freshmen he has on this team. And then Stefan, Julian Sand as his quarterback, CJ Donaldson at running back, JJ at X, Carnell at Z, Bryson Rogers at slot, Max Clare at tight end, and then from left to right, Ian Moore, Luke Montgomery, Josh Padilla, Tegra Shabola, Deontay Armstrong, and then Will Kazmarek as his wild card. Get the text 614-350-3315. It's a place to give your thoughts on how these two drafted. We'll also probably send out a survey, just having you guys vote on that, though. Ohio State actual spring game where they're not drafting players. It's just simply offense versus defense on Saturday at noon in Ohio Stadium. We'll be in there giving you all insight, all news information, all everything. So for Stefan Krajisnik and Andrew Gillis, I'm Stephen Means. That was Buckeye Talk.